If you're a therapist looking to grow your impact, or you just want to reduce your financial anxiety, then today's video is for you. We're going to talk about liquidity and why I think it's the financial goal that more people should be thinking about and maybe even focusing on. Hi team, my name is Dave. I'm a financial planner and the founder of Turning Point Financial Life Planning, where I use the tools of financial planning to help therapists grow their impact and build lives they love. If you're new here, please be sure to go ahead and click on that subscribe button. So this week we're going to talk about liquidity, but before we dive into the nitty-gritty of what liquidity actually is and how it's useful, let's talk about the types of life goals that liquidity can help support. So maybe you want to grow your impact, start a podcast, write a book, or even develop an online course. Or if you just have too much financial anxiety in your life and you constantly feel like you're running around and putting out financial fires, or feel pressured to jam one more client into an already overscheduled week, liquidity might be the right financial goal for you. So let's talk about what liquidity is and how it functions. Liquidity is actually a fairly simple financial concept. Liquidity refers to how easily you can turn any given asset that you own into cash. So as an example, if you have money in an online bank account or a money market fund, those are very, very liquid because they really essentially already are cash. Equally, if you hold investments in a normal brokerage account, what sometimes is called a taxable account, that is also highly liquid. You have investments and you would need to sell those investments to have access to the cash, but you can do that quite quickly. On the other end of the spectrum, very illiquid assets are things like your house. If you decide you need to access the equity or the value in your home, it can take a long time to do that. If you go to sell the house, for example, it's going to take a fair amount of time to sell it. You'll likely want to hire a real estate broker and also might have to pay some transaction taxes. Another illiquid asset would be the investments in your retirement account. Now that might seem very similar to the assets in your taxable account, but the reality is that retirement account assets are not really at all easy to access, at least in most cases, until you're actually in retirement or are about 60 years of age. Prior to that age, if you're 35 or you're 40, you're going to have to pay, in most cases, some early withdrawal penalties and also pay taxes when you take those funds out. So not the most accessible, not the most liquid. So what does liquidity look like as a financial goal? For most people, I think there'll be two parts. First would be focusing on establishing an emergency fund. And an emergency fund is where you would put 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses and then put it in a very safe investment like a checking account or perhaps an online money market account. Beyond that, you might also consider investing in an ordinary brokerage account, or what's sometimes known as a taxable account. And within that taxable account, you'll probably want to invest in the stock market. You'll want to be able to participate in some of the appreciation that the stock market generally experiences. And you'll want to protect yourself from those inevitable market downturns. So the way to protect yourself is to hold a little bit more conservative of an investment allocation, which just means that you'll hold a greater percentage in fixed income or bonds than you would relative to equity. I realize some of the investment terms I've just thrown around, like conservative investment allocation, might be a little bit confusing. If you'd like to learn more about them, scroll below and click through to access my Finance Quickstart Guide to Therapists, where I'll walk you through some of that terminology step by step. Now, in some ways, having liquidity as a financial goal might sound a little bit overly simplistic, right? I mean, all I'm basically saying is that it is super helpful to have some cash in the bank or to have cash readily accessible when you need it. It will reduce financial anxiety and it will give you more time and space to go do things like write a book or develop a podcast or online course that won't generate income immediately, but might pay really big returns down the road. I mean, duh. More money is good. That's pretty obvious. I'm not sure that's super helpful, but if you think about some of the goals that are much more popular out there, they actually work against your liquidity. So if you just sort of adopt conventional wisdom type financial goals, you might actually be doing yourself a disservice. And that's what I want you to really think about as a result of watching this video. So if we think about two very popular and reasonable sounding financial goals that many people think they ought to strive for, they might include saving up that down payment for purchasing your first home, or maxing out or aggressively funding your retirement accounts. Those are both great goals, but remember, they both are fairly illiquid investments to hold. So if you have life goals that might require some more flexibility before you retire, or before 10 years from now you might want to sell your home, you might want to consider whether there are different goals that are better able to support the life you want to live. And that really is the message I hope everyone gets out of this video. And that is, in a sentence, that personal finance is just that. It is personal. So I'd really encourage you to think through, what does your ideal life look like? What do you want to be doing with your life? How do you want to be spending your time? Only then, after that kind of careful reflection and planning, can you decide what financial goals best support you leading that life. And that's really what I think financial planning is about and how it should be used. So I think the bottom line here is, have a goal that fits you, and don't feel bad about it. If everyone else is buying homes or maxing out their retirement accounts and you're just focused on building up liquidity in something as boring as an emergency fund and a relatively boring, safe investment allocation in your taxable account, don't feel bad about that. If it fits your life and supports your life, that is exactly what you should be doing, and try not to worry too much about what everyone else down the street is doing. All right, that is it for this week's video. I hope you found this conversation around liquidity and how it might be a good financial goal for you to be helpful. If you'd like some more assistance thinking through liquidity or any other financial matters and how that might fit into your life, scroll down to the description box below. There are links to contact me. You can send me an email. I'll be happy to help in any way I can. You can schedule a free 30-minute meeting with me, and there's also a link to my free financial planning guide for therapists. I really appreciate you stopping by and spending some time with me here. I hope you have a great rest of your day.